So honestly, I think being a black woman is a lot better and easier than it is in Japan. I would definitely just say be careful of the men. I think in general, like I said, you can find a lot of Korean men that will fetishize you. And even though Korea is really like relatively like a really safe country, I think just as a woman, like there still is some dangers. I've heard of stories where people...
Welcome to the Melanated Files. In this series, we highlight and share the stories of black people from across the globe. Remember to subscribe to this channel for weekly videos and also follow us on social media for regular updates. Let's get into the interview.
So my name is Daycia. I also go by as Day, and I am from the US. So actually, I was living in Thailand prior, and then I came to Korea right after. And so I decided to come to Korea. I don't know really how to explain it. It was kind of just like a feeling. I think I was just really ready to try something new. And I used to live in Japan before too, so I've kind of just been around other countries, Taiwan as well. And I think Korea was just kind of the next Asian country to go to, so that's how I ended up here. So I am an English teacher, and I also make YouTube videos on this side as well. How long have I been in Korea? It'll be 1 year officially, like tomorrow, I think. So there's a lot of things I like about Korea. One of my favorite things is the fact that Koreans are quite sociable, so it's really easy to make Korean friends. So in Korea, it's very common to do things together as a collective group. And so oftentimes, like me and my Korean friends, we will all, we'll go to picnics by the river, we'll do random festivals like the Water Gun Festival, or there's a Cherry Blossom Festival coming up. There are so many festivals every weekend. So I feel like I'm never really bored here, which is really nice. And the fact that I think that Koreans are so sociable, they always want to talk to you, especially when you're from another country, they get really, really excited. And so it's just kind of cool to really like mingle with Koreans because it's really easy to do. Probably the air quality. So unfortunately, Korea does have poor air, especially during the winters and spring. So it's usually like a combination of like the dust and the pollution that comes from China. And then like Korea itself like also has some pollution, so it's like mixed. And so unfortunately, oftentimes you have to wear masks, and that can be kind of uncomfortable. So I definitely would say the air quality, just because it's also just not good for your health. So I would probably say that's the least. Okay, so comparison between Japan, Korea, and Thailand. So I don't know where to begin. So Japan was kind of like my first country away from home. So Japan has like a soft spot in my heart. But there are things that, like with Japan, the fact that Japanese people are more like closed off a little bit, and they're kind of like more to themselves, can be kind of hard, especially for people from America, where we're very like sociable and we love to touch and we love to be really friendly. So it's really interesting because it's very contrasting from Korea, where they're more sociable and more like they want to talk to you. And in Thailand, it's like even more of that case. Like Thai people are just the warmest, like most friendliest people ever. You'll just be walking down the street and Thai people will just be like, oh, hi, where are you from? And that's what's really interesting. I think it's just how the people warm up to you, I suppose. I feel like Japan, like Japanese friends are awesome, but like kind of the initial like beginning of that friendship can be kind of hard, making the Japanese friends at first, but once you have them, they're there for life. But with Korea, it's kind of like they're easier to make, but at the same time you also kind of have to be careful. I don't know, maybe it's because I'm like a woman, so this could be a little bit different, but with like Korean men, for example, like men might talk to you in order to maybe like try to have sex with you, so you kind of have to be a little bit more careful because you have to kind of understand like, is this genuine or not? And whereas Thai people, they're just extremely friendly all the time. And I think that could also contribute to the weather, because like in Thailand, it's a really warm country, so people are always very just warm in general. And so Thai people, even if you don't become their friends, they will always just talk to you. They're just really excited to get to know you. And I think they're also really, really, really used to foreigners in Thailand, because there are just so many foreigners, like travelers and tourists. It's really huge there. So I think they're also just very, very like used to it at the same time. So I think those are kind of like contrasting experiences when it comes to the three. Oh, what's my favorite Korean food? So I'm a kimchi fan. So one thing I love about Korea is the fact that the food is spicy. I really like spicy food. So I'm a huge kimchi fan. So anything kimchi bokkeumbap, which is kimchi fried rice, kimchi mandu, which is kimchi dumpling, kimchi jjigae. Kimchi jjigae is so good, guys. So kimchi jjigae is like a kimchi stew, and it's just so flavorful. So anything like with kimchi in it, I love it. My ambitions for life in South Korea. So right now, like I said, as I said, I'm an English teacher, but it's not like my passion, but it's really fun and I love my students. So I do make videos, I do film for YouTube, and currently I'm also working with a bunch of other YouTubers, so I have opportunities to edit and work on their videos. And so I think for now I just want to continue to focus on making videos and also working with other companies and corporations. So I have a lot of opportunities to work for like Incheon Airport and just any other like Korean tourism. And so I think if I can continue to make videos with that, I think it'll just allow me to kind of grow as a person and as a filmmaker too. Best life advice I've ever seen. Okay, so I'm really big into like the whole self-care, self-love, compassion, like radical empathy, all that kind of stuff, and taking care of yourself and self-growth. And I'm really big onto like self-development books and podcasts and videos. But honestly, I think one of the biggest advice, I don't know, this was like the first thing that came into my mind, but I just know when you're a kid, you kind of always hear things like, don't do things to others that you don't want done to you. And I think that's always still continue to be my philosophy. So I really love helping people and giving back to people, and even just simple things as like if people were like struggling to carry their bag up the escalator or up the stairs, I love just asking like, hey, I can help you, like give me a bag or let's like take it up together. I just think that if I was in that situation, because I've been in that situation where I have a giant suitcase and sometimes it's really hard to carry it up the stairs, and sometimes I think like, oh, it'd be kind of cool if someone could help me. But when I see that onto someone else, it's like, okay, I want to do that for someone because I know how it's like in that position. And so I think it's really important to really be aware of your actions and your thoughts. So even like in a negative way, like if you feel maybe upset at someone, like you don't want to say anything harsh to them, right? Because you wouldn't like if that happened to you. So I think that saying has kind of always allowed me to be aware of like my actions and what I say and how I communicate with others. And I think in life overall, it's super important to just be compassionate and be kind to others because that's what you want for yourself, right? And I think even in terms of like a business standpoint, like people are more willing to work with you if you are open, if you are kind-hearted versus like closed off and you're like angry all the time or bossy. So I just kind of make sure that I'm always aware of that. My favorite book, so many good books, but I think the Book of Joy is a really good book. It's a book with the Dalai Lama and the Archbishop Tutu from South Africa, and it's a book about the Book of Joy, so how to be joyful and how to be compassionate for yourself and for others. And it kind of goes back towards what I was saying earlier, but I just think again it's really important to be compassionate, empathetic of other people, especially like as a Black woman. My experiences as a Black person in the world, like whether in the US or other parts of the world, is quite different than other people, right? So I want people to sit and listen and to understand my experiences, you know, and I think that's where empathy comes in. Because in empathy, you can sit back and you can be quiet and you can listen to another person's experience. For example, like I'm straight, so I'm not LGBTQ, but I have a lot of LGBTQ friends, and just being able to just sit and listen and try to understand them from an empathetic standpoint instead of kind of quickly judging or quickly shutting them off, which does happen a lot, especially, you know, as Black people, we can kind of understand where people kind of don't really care to listen or say that we are being over dramatic, but honestly it just takes like a good mind and a good heart. And so kind of going back to the Book of Joy, I think that teaching you how to really understand other people and their experiences is really important. So honestly, I think being a Black woman is a lot better and easier than it is in Japan. In terms of, it's really interesting because it has its ups and downs. Of course, like no matter where in the world, you will face racism anywhere in the world. But it's really interesting because in Korea, they're really big into like Black culture and hip hop culture, and so this can be kind of like a plus and minus because it could be seen as like cultural appropriation. But I think the fact that they are more aware of hip hop culture, though, they're more open to meeting more Black people, and also there's also like a big push for like more black models and black actors in like Korean dramas. And even oftentimes, like a lot of Koreans are very interested in like the racism that goes on into America. There have been so many questions, like when This Is America came out by Childish Gambino, like a lot of my coworkers who are Korean, they all asked me about it and they just sat and listened. And I think that was just a really cool experience because they were very intrigued by that. There's also like a popular like web comic on Facebook by a Korean woman who's married to a man from Ghana, and she's always constantly like drawing comics about how like she critically thinking about like her internalized racism in Korea. And even though she's Korean, like she still thinks this, and so it's very interesting because I think that a lot more Koreans are more open to like critically thinking themselves about racism in Korea. Of course, like not all Koreans, but I think the fact that that's changing. And just even recently, like you will see a lot of like how can I say, there was a famous like graffiti artist, and he recently like did a graffiti mural of like a black woman in Korea. So I think that there's just so much more opportunity or like open-mindedness towards black people that I've compared to like where in Japan I felt like no one really cared that much or wasn't that interested really. But of course not everyone's like that, and you also have your downsides too. And like oftentimes like you do get fetishized a lot because people are into hip hop, and so as a black woman you have to again be careful because a lot of Korean men will, you know, they kind of think like, oh, like a black woman would be really cool, and you get fetishized. So it has its ups and downs, but I think for the most part though, I think there's a lot more opportunity as black people. Being a black person here, there's a lot of famous YouTubers in Korea with like almost 1 million subscribers, and they're black. I don't know if you guys heard of Sam Okiri, but he's also another man from Ghana who's a famous actor and model here, completely black. So I think there's just a lot more like black content creators here, and they're doing a lot, and Koreans are very interested in that and they want that. So I think that's really cool. So the general attitude I think towards black people, for the most part, honestly I think most people kind of just don't care. I think that a lot of people I think people are very excited when they meet foreigners in general, because in Korea, they're, especially in Seoul, my experience is just in Seoul, so it can be different elsewhere, but especially in Seoul where they love to speak English, to them they just see another black person, they're like, oh, it's another foreigner, like this is really cool. I do think maybe older people it could be different, but overall like my experience has been super positive. I'll be in the subway, old people always give me candy and always want to say hi to me. I have a collection of candy that I've just gotten from old Koreans because they're just so excited to see me. It's really sweet and really kind. So I think for the most part, it's very mostly positive, and that they're just happy for someone to be here. If I had one message to share, it would definitely be kind to others and be empathetic of others, because we're currently in a world where we are quick to shut other people down, or we're quick to not listen. And honestly, the world could be so much better. Like, it's gotten a lot better since it has been before, but I think that the fact that we just need to like shut up and listen to other people's experiences, we could really grow as a society and as a world. So my message would be to be kind, to listen, to be quiet and listen, and to really enjoy what others have to offer. I think another thing that is really important too is to value your time, because time is very limited. So a lot of people spend a lot of their time, whether if it's scrolling through social media or hating others or doing something that's not really like productive or positive with their time. And the thing is, like, time goes like that. So in an instant or in a blink, like, you'll be old, or who knows, you know, you never know what could happen tomorrow. So I think that time is really, really, really valuable. I think it's the most valuable thing you can ever have. So I think using your time wisely and using your time to invest into yourself, because you're also just as important as other people, and making sure that you use your time in a good and productive way. So my life advice would be to really just be considerate of like what your actions are and how you use your time and how you value things and setting up your priorities. My proudest accomplishment, I think, is, I'm going to try to say this really shortly, but when I was actually in Thailand, so in 2017, I booked a one-way ticket from the States to Japan. And and I was just visiting back Japan to see my friends. During that time, I was just kind of free traveling, and I ended up in Thailand. So I was in Thailand for 2 weeks, and I had a flight back home to America. So I was at the airport ready to take my flight. I was out of money, so this is why like I needed to get on this plane, because I was out of money. But part of me, like in my heart, like my gut feeling told me not to get on that plane. But it wouldn't make any sense to not get on that plane, right? Because I didn't have any money, and this was the only way I could get back home. So logically, it was like, get on that plane, duh, like what are you doing? But my mind and my heart and my feelings was telling me to not get on that plane. So in the end, I decided to like skip the plane. Like I was in the airport for 2 hours, like pacing back and forth. Like the stewardess was telling me, do you want to take this flight? We're about to close the gate soon. And I ended up like turning around and leaving the airport and stayed in Thailand. So lo and behold, I stayed there for like 5 more months, and things just ended up working out perfectly. I know it's kind of like a wild story, and if I had more time, I would talk about it. But I would say, honestly, that was kind of my proudest accomplishment, because that was when I decided to listen to my heart, my gut feeling. And I decided to kind of take control of my life. And even though I didn't have money, like missing this flight would honestly have made no sense, because I don't know what I was going to do with my life. But something told me to stay, and I decided not to. I decided to stay. And so it's a proudest accomplishment, because I really took control of what I wanted and what I was feeling. And things just ended up working out perfectly after that. So definitely, one thing I wish that the U.S. had was the transportation system, because the transportation system in Korea is phenomenal, and it's also really affordable. And it's just so easy to get from point A to point B, but in the U.S. we do not have proper transportation. And it's really unfortunate, because people have to get to work, and it's just a struggle. So for sure, I think investing into like better transportation would be amazing. I want to have dinner with the Dalai Lama. Why? Because he's awesome, but two, I think his perspective on like, again, going back to the whole compassion and empathy, I think it's really cool. So I would be really curious to ask him some questions about how he would feel in terms of like the negative things that go in our lives. For example, like whether if it's war or like even racism or sexism. I'm really curious, because I think that it's kind of easy to be like, okay, let's be compassionate and let's be kind. But then like there's also an action part of it too. Like we have to take action, just saying that you want the world to be better, but not taking any action or anything wouldn't really solve that. So I'm really curious about his opinion on like being more actionable in terms of changing the world for a better place. My advice for you to come to Korea is, one, make sure you bring your hair care products, because that's really important, because you don't have the access here as much. Two, I would definitely just say be careful of the men. I think in general, like I said, you can find a lot of Korean men that will fetishize you. And even though Korea is really like relatively like a really safe country, I think just as a woman, like there still is some dangers. I've heard of stories where people have gotten their drinks drugged at like nightclubs and stuff. So even though you might think like, oh, Korea's gonna be so fun and it's so perfect and it's so safe, just be really careful when you're around like certain guys, and especially when you're out at night, because drugging does happen. And so yeah, I would honestly say that was probably my advice. Hair care products, and be careful with the men. I personally haven't dated anyone, because I don't really do it, but I have a lot of friends, and I have a lot of black female friends who are dating like Korean men. So I don't think it's hard at all. I think it's probably relatively easy, because like I said, a lot of them are very aware of black culture and black people here, because it's in their media constantly. Like they constantly see black people, so it's not like they aren't like aware, don't know anything. So from what I gathered, it's pretty easy. I do my own hair. But there is like, I don't know if you've heard of Itaewon, but there is Itaewon, which is like a foreign town in Seoul, and they sell a lot like weave and like a lot of black hair care products. But I think it's just cheaper if you bring it back from home. So I would say if you definitely come to Korea, you should go to Gyeongbokgung Palace, because the palace is just really cool, and you can dress up in cute little hanbok, which is the Korean traditional outfit. So if you do visit, definitely recommend. It's just a really cool like traditional cultural experience to have. So I'm pretty extroverted. And when I was a kid, like I was like even like hyper extroverted. So oftentimes, like I remember at some point, like I was at a mall, and we have those fountains where you like throw money in. And I don't know, I guess apparently I wanted to take a swim. So I decided to just like jump in, and I was just splashing around swimming. I remember that part, but I also remember like my parents telling me that a lot of people were really entertained and they thought that was really cute and funny. So yeah, I think that's probably one of my earliest memories. I would probably say the biggest lesson I've learned in life is definitely valuing your time. I don't know if this is a superpower, but I guess people like to say that I attract people. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but people say that when they're around me, they can't stop smiling. So I guess maybe that's a superpower. So you can find me anywhere from Instagram to Facebook to YouTube. My handle is Daylightful, so Daylightful. So Daylightful, it's a fun day, delightful, fix it together. So yeah. One last thing I do want to share is definitely achieve your goals in your life. So you only have one life to live. So it's really important to do something that sparks you joy, right? People are saying that nowadays, but it's true. Something that sparks you joy, something that makes your heart race, something that makes your heart flutter, because time is precious, right? Time is valuable, and you don't want to do things that makes you depressed or makes you upset. So one last thing I would definitely say is achieve your dreams, do it big, and go hard.
Thank you so much for watching. If you would like to share your story or have us visit your region, send us a message on any of our social media platforms or via our website.
That's good.